Good evening, everyone. I will call tonight the Preservation Commission to order. We have a quorum. We're going to be setting up the presentation. Right now, tonight, we are excited to have a guest. Oh, sorry. Is this better?
Yeah.
Okay. Tonight, we are excited to have a speaker talk about lessons from the Elijah Muhammad House Museum restoration. Wendy Muhammad will be giving a presentation to us. She received the City of Chicago Department of Planning and Development Preservation Excellence Award for her work on the Elijah Muhammad House located in Kenwood. So when it's ready, you can come give us your presentation. Thank you for...
Is this my clicker, Cade?
Oh, is it Mike? You want to see if it works?
Let's see. Yep. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. Specifically, thank you to Beth for inviting me. And this is all about the power of networking, because we actually met and began to connect at the Preservation Excellence Awards that we were honored to win. So I'm going to flip through some slides. I'm not going to go through everyone, but I want to help you to understand a little bit who I am and a little bit about just the journey of preserving these spaces that are important to our underserved communities. So this is the home. It's located at 4847 South Woodlawn Avenue. And you can see a picture of it in the 1960s, 2019. That's 2022, but it looks a little different now because we've done a tremendous amount of work. One of the things I want to summarize and say is that with these homes, oftentimes the challenge is that they're very old homes. This home is over 100 years old. In addition to preserving history that is important to underserved communities, oftentimes there's subjects that are a bit controversial, so you're navigating through that, through the social issues, people who had to take certain stances on certain things at a time in our history here in the country that's not too comfortable. So you're dealing with all of that. And so all of that folds into your preservation process. Okay. This is just one of the scenes from the home. We have a lot of archives. I'll tell you a little bit about that. This is how we've preserved the home. We spent time doing all new tuck pointing. The brick is over 100 years old, so we had to test mortar. So I learned how to be a real preservationist, right? So I came out of the construction world, built a hospital and wellness clinics, but doing a gut rehab or a new construction is much easier than this, because every step of the way, there's a puzzle that you have to solve. So solving how to preserve this walnut staircase, that some of our plaster work, I'll just give you some quick highlights before I go into history. These are the people that were occupying the space that we had to get rid of. We nicknamed them the Walters. And it took a lot to get the Walters out of their house. And you can see in that middle picture is them looking out the window at us as we're outside preserving and trying to figure out our plan, right? So the house was built in 1902 and was designed by Frost and Granger. Some people know Frost and Granger because they did like the Park Forest train station, Union Station. It was built for Mr. William French Burroughs and his wife, Louisa Libby. And I give anybody a prize who knows the Libby's food song. That's it. This house was a very significant home in the Kenwood area because it was sort of a leadership home where they met. And we saw in some of the manifests where some of the guests of the home were like the Goodyears and the Hoovers and some of these key people that helped to build the Chicago economy at the turn of the century. That's me. Don't worry about that. My history in this is that I became a member of the Nation of Islam. Actually, today is my anniversary. I'm not going to count how many years ago it was, but It was September 9th, 1990. I had just graduated from college. And so that's a little bit of my history and why I wanted to do this house, because I felt that there was so much history that needed to be preserved and stories that need to be told that were different from what was out there in the media. It's just an old picture of us. That's me as a model in college. So my background really quickly is I've been a business consultant and developer, started out in public accounting, went from there into consulting and then into development. And I do a number of different services. Prior to the house, this was my most challenging project right here. I built a hospital in Maryland. So there are a lot of new challenges. If you know anything about hospital development, it can be very challenging, especially as an independent. That's me on the construction site. And just to give you an idea of some of the stuff that I'd done before, this is just the design of the hospital that I put together with the green roof and that kind of stuff. I also built a Massage Envy, and I was franchisee of the year for 4 years in a row, and do some radio stuff. And I just came out with a new book that launched on Amazon the other day. And now I'm a historic consultant, preservation consultant, and that just kind of happened. So this house is the single most important piece of property in modern day Black history. There are more leaders that ate and dined and met in this home than any other piece of property in modern day Black history. As I mentioned, we are one of the 2025 winners of the City of Chicago Preservation Excellence Award. We're very proud of that. We are now listed on the National Historic Registry. And so some of the things that was important for me to preserve and highlight is that there are 4 different types of architecture in this home. We've got Chicago Square, Italian Renaissance, vernacular, and arts and craft, all kind of blended together in this one home. So that's what Frost and Granger was known for. They're known for their train station design, so their homes are very unique. And this is just one of 2 remaining residential spaces that still exist that architecture firm actually did. The home has a lot of spiritual elements in it because the owners were Jewish Masonic Masons, and they wanted to build a very spiritual home because they were building and developing here in America, and so they wanted a spiritual component in the house. So there's lots of limestone, lots of copper. We've got 4 different types of wood in the house, which the Walters, or the raccoons, helped us to preserve. So the house had been vacant for 20 years, and were it not for them, I think all the rats would have eaten up all the wood. So about 98% of our wood is intact. We also made sure that it was, this presentation is a little old, but we also made sure that we didn't throw away anything. So I wanted it to be a sustainability project. So I took things like this old mantle that we could no longer use and made a table and a mural. And we did things like, you'll see me wearing this pendant, some of the copper downspouts, we made coins, we made things out of them so that we could repurpose it. The house was a mess, so we did all new electrical. This is us with our electrical trenches. And as I mentioned, when you're doing these types of homes, why oftentimes a consultant is needed is because every step of the way there's a puzzle to solve. So it's not like, let me just look at my drawings and this is how I'm going to put this together and lay the pipe the way it needs to be. You got to figure out how to get that done and preserve the existing space. And I had a lot of general contractors that just said, Wendy, just gut it. And I said, no, but that's not true preservation. So we did not just gut it. For example, the windows, we were able to preserve most of them. The ones in the middle there are replicas, but this one to the right is a bay window that was painted white. And so we saved the windows and the bay window and the copper bay. And then in the bottom left there, those are some of our windows that we were able to preserve. We preserved hardware and the doors. because we didn't want to lose the character of the house by putting like new stuff in there. On the roof, we replaced the copper, put in a new slate roof, and all of this requires calculations to figure out how to do it, because we figured out that, okay, slate is going to be too heavy for that type of slant, so we have to do a replica. So there was a lot of puzzle piece putting together. This is the copper that I took off the house that we used to make the coins. I'll show you some before and after photos. I did some upgrades in that white trim that was on the limestone. I took that off and then used the black aluminum clad windows instead of the white paint. Those actually are wood windows, which wouldn't last nowadays. This is the north side of the property. Obviously, there was no HVAC in there. There probably was an old heating unit, but definitely no air conditioning. I took a trip to Italy and I love pavers, so I thought, why not put these pavers in just as a nice upgrade? Still has that old flair. You can see on the left that one of those copper bay windows that was painted white. And so when we took it off, that's the copper that you see. Some of the wood, you'll see the refinishing, like our before and after here. Again, with the 4 different types of wood, figuring out how do you restore walnut, which is going to be different from mahogany, which is going to be different from pine. Those are the different lessons. The coach house is in the back of the house. There was this little fire ladder that you had to use to get up there. So we had to figure out how to make that comfortable so we could access it. The goal for that is to put meeting spaces and a reading room. We have lots of beautiful recordings and letters that we found from many of the different dignitaries from around the world who came to the home, all uniting around trying to figure out how to create this new world for the Black community. And so it really was a unifying effort. This is the new sewer that we had to put in. Lesson learned with the sewer, I had somebody come and put a camera down and they said, "You're fine, you'll be able to use the sewer." And in the middle of the night, something said to me, "Ask them for the film. Ask them for it." And when I asked for the film, there was this branch growing out of there. So then I had to dig up my cute pavers and and fix it. But in the middle of the night, and this, I always say that when you're doing these kind of projects, the ancestors come to you, they don't let you sleep. This is another picture of that side where the raccoons were. The basement was special because we lowered the floor in the basement by 18 inches to give it more headspace. And the idea down there is to make it a research area where any of you could come and you could just learn, and you can see there's some really cool documents that we found on economic development and business models and ways to prevent police brutality. There was a lot of work that was being done in the 60s. We are still trying to find transcripts for the meetings with Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I called the FBI because I said, "I know y'all got them." And they said, "Well, matter of fact, we do. You can have them, but I haven't gotten them yet." So we'll see what happens, right? But my point to them is that there's an important piece of our history that I think is important for us to learn. It's something that we can all study and learn from. This is that copper bay window that I was telling you about that had the paint on it that we took off of there. All the floor joints, we sistered them because my concern was that these floorboards are really old. We want to make sure that the house can handle the weight and that it'll be comfortable, hopefully for another 100 years or so. Just to give you an idea of our plastering work, that's what the upstairs looked like on the left, and that's what it looks like now. It's a little bit more improved now. One of the fireplaces that we were able to restore, so there's lots of limestone and marble that we were able to save. Give you an idea of the main stairway, that restoration. This was an office where it used to be a ballroom probably in the 1900s, but Elijah Muhammad used it for office space, and there were desks in there. So we took the paint off of that fireplace and found this nice brick type of subway tile work and saved and preserved that. And there was lots of water damage that we were able to get through. Some of you all may be familiar that we had, at the beginning when I first acquired the house, we had a huge ordinance fight with our alder person who was attempting to stop all new house museums in the city. And so that impacted me, Muddy Waters House, Emmett Till. There was a number of us, and we pushed back on her and won, because that would have affected all 90 plus something house museums in the city of Chicago. And Chicago is enriched by the history that it preserves. And, you know, I just said to her, I said, listen, the history is the history. And so we need to tell it so that we learn from it. And I was very fortunate. Uh-oh. It's not moving. Oh, there we go. I got a call from Mayor Lori Lightfoot, and she said, don't worry, I'm throwing cold water on this SHIT. I got you. So they got it thrown out, and she withdrew the ordinance. But that was a big fight for us, because all of us, especially as minorities trying to preserve this type of history, a lot of us are doing it on limited funding, on our own funds. And so that kind of snafu, while it looks like it's nothing, it's huge for us, because you got to stop and fight. You got to hire consultants and lawyers and all of that. But we didn't. We fought it ourselves. And so we were grateful to be able to win. I need you. Okay. Uh-oh. One more. There we go. So just some of the, that is the meeting I was telling you at the top left with Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. Next door to the house, does anybody know the singer Lou Rawls? Okay. So Lou Rawls, his father was a very prominent Baptist minister in the city of Chicago. He had probably one of the most well-known congregations of people of names you would recognize today, like Chaka Khan and Natalie Cole and Buddy Guy. So they were neighbors. He lived actually next door to this house. And so they had a lot of Christian-Muslim unity meetings. And so some of these you will see in these pictures. This one to the right, you see Muhammad Ali to the left. That's actually Kwame Ture. And on the bottom left, you see the 1968 Democratic Convention that came to Chicago. And if you remember anything about that, it was a very violent time in our history for the Democratic Party. And the Georgia Convention came to Elijah Muhammad and asked for help because they were not given funding to attend the convention. So he housed them and is now credited for diversifying the Democratic Party, because they were the only black delegation at that time that was being denied access to the actual convention. So he housed them. They stayed at the house. That's Andrew Young and Bernard King and Julian Bond. They all were there and ended up having a lot of meetings. We've got transcripts from meetings with Senator Adam Clayton Powell where they were talking about some of these issues. So some really exciting stuff. Oh, next slide. One of the things that we're using is technology so that every time you come, it'll be different. It won't be the same thing. So you'll be able to get an experience, and we can change the technology to whatever. We can do architectural tours. We can talk about civil rights. We can talk about healthcare, you name it, because with the use of technology. So a lot of AI and a lot of 3D imaging and things like that. Okay, next slide. This is a statue that I put in the front. It represents unity. It is 7 members of the African diaspora uniting with one another, and you'll see them carrying briefcases because the idea is for this dispensation in our sojourn here in America, Black people need to focus on economic development. So that's what the briefcase represents. that's my take on, my modern take on a symbol that Elijah Muhammad used to have on the front of the newspaper. Next slide. This is one of the ecumenical meetings that happened in the living room of the house. A lot of famous Baptist preacher. I think that's the Boston Seminary College that was actually there. So next slide. Next one, this is just our sponsorship and another close-up of the coins. And then that's me. So I don't want to take up too much of your time. Do you guys have any questions, anything that I didn't cover? And I know I was talking really fast, but I know it's late and you guys have a big agenda. So I'm so grateful, Beth. Thank you so much for bringing me here. Any questions? No one?
Do you have any other like relationships with some of the other house museums
I do, and I should have mentioned that. I'm sorry. I'm the executive director and one of the founders of the Coalition of Black House Museums. And so what we've been doing is working with other house museum owners and founders to help them to preserve. So Muddy Waters, Emmett Till, the Pullman Porter Museum. We've been doing some stuff with the Regal Theater, trying to help them move along with that and providing some guidance and advocacy. Most of the work that I've been doing in the space is being an owner's rep, because oftentimes some of them are getting grants and sometimes the contractors aren't really fair. And so they charge line items more than what is allocated on the grant. And then that poor preacher or whoever gets to the end of the grant and they're nowhere near completion. And so that work has expanded even to the Great Plains Black Museum in Omaha, Nebraska, which is actually my hometown. I'm a Chicagoan, but I was bred in Nebraska. And so they're running into the same thing. And so I've been doing a lot of owners reps work just to kind of push the contractors back and say, hey, look, this is not free money. You can't just take advantage like this, and the pockets aren't that deep. So if you do this, then they may not get finished. So that's that relationship. Thank you. Anybody else? Questions? Yes, sir? No? You look like you had something to say. Okay, thank you all very much. I hope that was informative, and I hope it helped. If you have anybody that needs help doing preservation work, it's not just underserved communities, it's just that that's where the greatest need is right now, because fighting against contractors who are going to tell you to just gut the place or tear it down and start over, that's the common language. And this is proof that it can be done. You don't have to tear it down. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. That was wonderful. All right, so next, I think, okay. Now we'll be doing public comment for anything on the agenda for listed for discussion. So do we have any public comment for the discussion items? Okay, Ms. Rzinski.
Hi, thank you, Mary Rosinski. You're going to be talking about the dog beach, the ADA access, and I appreciate that you're going to be doing that because our lakefront is a historical aspect of our community, and it's beautiful. I want you to know that the Parks and Rec Board 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago voted unanimously to go with one of the GEI permanent ones. We were not very much moved by the Moby mats. They seem to not be working as they do, but it brings to be compliant, all we need is a ramp. The boardwalk is actually a secondary project, which is nice if you have the money and you have the budget, but we were not looking for that. We just want to have a dog beach that has a dog ranch, a dog ramp, a people ramp that's compliant. So as you're discussing this tonight, I hope that you will take that into consideration. We would love to see the dunes and the wildflowers preserved. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's Seeing no other public comment, we can then move on to the next item on the agenda under new business, 25 Press 0104 at 706 Forest Avenue. Do you want to read it into the record, or do you want?
That's fine, I can do it.
Okay. I think you.
Yeah, let me just read in the case and then you can. This is an application to alter the structure's rear volume by demolishing a non-original deck, constructing a single-story mudroom addition and raised deck, and altering the pattern of fenestration, including new windows and doors and new and existing openings. The applicable standards are alteration 1 through 10, construction 1 through 5, 7 through 13, and 15. Whenever you're ready.
Well, hi everybody. I'm Sebastian Cosio. I'm the owner and I'm the developer of the property. This is a complete gut rehab on the inside of the house. The house is in pretty bad shape for the most part on the inside. And then we're doing all new mechanicals and then new mechanical system, plumbing, electrical, and everything. We needed to put a small addition in the back to create a mudroom, and it was pretty much the only way that we can do it, to connect. There's an existing porch on the back right next to the kitchen, but in between there was this space that we needed to put an addition in order to connect these two rooms. So you can see in the back of the house, I don't know if I can point in there, but there we go. So that's the new addition, and then that's the existing. The other one is existing without the addition, and then that's kind of like a recess space, which is aligned with the second story window in there and second story wall. We are also we are proposing to put patio doors facing the yard. If you can see on the right side, on the right elevation, that was a porch, like an outside porch that they enclosed at some point. The windows, they are completely different than the rest of the house, and it has stucco, but basically the style of that room is like an enclosed porch from I don't know how long ago, but it has nothing to do with the exterior or the interior of the house. So we are doing patio doors that they're going to connect that family room into the yard. And then the size of doors that we are using, they are more according to the rest of the house, the style of the house. On the side, which is the south elevation, we are also removing all those windows that you see in there. Those windows. The other windows are existing, original, and then they are staying. We are refurbishing the windows. And then you can see the two new windows in the family room that we are doing according to the other windows, and they have the same design and lights and look and feel of the original windows. There you have the floor plan of the first floor, and then you can see on the right side, on the left floor plan, you can see the space where we are proposing the addition, and it looks in the back of the house. It looks like two different houses, kind of thing. So we are unifying the roof on top of the new addition, and then we are doing the same slope and the same materials and everything that is there now. On the outside is pretty much it, except for the deck. The deck that is in the house now, and then there are pictures. I don't know if you do have the pictures of the deck in the back. There we go. So the deck is in really bad shape and needs to be rebuilt. And we are doing it. We are moving it a little bit. It's pretty much the same square footage of what we have now, but it's in a different location. So it's going to be off the family room instead of being off the kitchen. Right now, the family room doesn't have any connection to the backyard. Those are the windows that I was saying that they have nothing to do with the style of the house, the existing of that enclosed porch that we have in there. I think that's pretty much it.
All right, thank you. Do we have any questions for the commissioner? I mean, from the commission, the applicant, sorry.
Yes. Hi.
Hi.
Can you zoom in on the new rear elevation? Great, thank you. So the addition is the little connector between what was the porch and becomes the new family room, right? And
Correct.
And the space to the left. The addition, does that project out in front of the new family room wall? Is that how I'm reading that correctly?
Say that again?
The addition, the little small connector addition, yeah, is that projected out in front of the walls to the left and to the right
No,
of it?
it's a line.
Okay, so,
Line with the back door, with the back wall.
okay, and the line in between the addition and the existing house on the right, what does that represent? A change in material or?
Well, I think that what we were showing in there is like the difference between the existing and the new addition.
Okay, so, and when it's complete, that line doesn't exist, is that right?
Hold on 1 second.
Could we see it in a floor plan potentially?
Correct. So then when we finish, that is not going to be a
Okay.
line in there. It's
I'll
going to
just-
be, the whole wall is going to be the same
Okay.
stucco.
And the roof above it, okay, I see, thank you. The roof line above it seems to, there's a similar line, is that the same story? Basically, I should just imagine that dashed?
Correct.
Okay, great.
Correct.
Thank you.
We are having the same slope roof connecting, so then it doesn't look like an addition. It looks like a whole addition once it's finished.
And that roof continues up a little bit higher than the roof adjacent to it?
That is a mistake that we have in the plans.
Okay.
If you see the plans that we apply for the permit, you can see the slope in that one.
That's just one continuous roof?
Correct.
All the way across?
Correct.
Okay,
All the way down.
got it. Thank you.
Yep.
Hi there. Kate, if you could go to, in the PDF that's submitted, it says it's page 28 of 47, there's a picture of a Marvin window, and it's a cottage window. It's like 6/1 and kind of a craftsman style. And it looks like the windows on the house are 3/1 lights. And I didn't know, I mean, since you went to the trouble to put this into the package, I assume that's the very window that you wanted to use, or is that?
No. This is the type of window that we're using in terms of materials and shape.
Okay.
But the lights are going to be matching the existing lights of the house.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it, yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And are those true divided lights or simulated divided?
No, true divider light.
Oh, they're true, okay.
Yeah.
In
We want it to look like, because we are not replacing all of them, we want this to be matching as much as we can.
And is this a wood window or aluminum clad?
This is aluminum clad on the outside and
Okay.
then wood on the inside.
Okay.
Yeah.
Question. On the, like for the south elevation where you're getting rid of a row of windows and
Yeah.
inserting just two, what is your plan for the stucco finish for that full elevation?
It's going to be the same stucco, the popcorn stucco that the rest of the house has.
Cool. Okay, and then full refinishing and,
Correct.
yeah, okay.
Correct.
Great, thank you.
The house, the original house doesn't have to be painted. So the only thing we are painting is the whole addition in the back once we connect with the new mudroom. But the rest of the house doesn't need to be painted on the outside. It's in good shape. Yeah. So we are not changing colors or anything.
Any other questions? You have you go ahead.
Just going back to the freeze board, that line stops the freeze board and the trim. Yeah, right there.
That's also a mistake. So basically that board is going to be continuous.
Okay.
We don't want the mudroom to look like an addition. We
Right.
want this to be as integrated as we can.
Right, it's just that we read that as something different.
Yep.
Do we have any other questions from commissioners of the applicant? If not, I can entertain a motion to close the record and enter into deliberation. Does someone want to make that motion? Good.
I move to begin deliberations.
Well, it's something new that we're doing. It's a little awkward. We're essentially making a motion to close the record
Right.
and then enter into deliberation. And then when we're done with that, we can make a motion to approve the approve, deny, whatever we want to do with the application. So it's a little awkward, but it's just a way to formally transition. A motion to enter into, close the record and enter into deliberation.
I motion to close the discussion and enter into discussion.
All right. Okay.
I second if we need to.
Do we have a second?
Here, second.
All right. All in approval? Aye. Okay. So now, any comments from commissioners about the project?
Can we see the photo of the existing back of the home?
Yeah, a little bit farther down. More and more and more. There.
So I always like it when something that has a lot of disparate elements of additions and changes that have been made over the years start to be solidified into something with less parts. And so I think they've been very successful in achieving that here. It's the back of the house. I think it's been improved. I don't have any major objections to anything I see here.
Do you have anything to say, or it seems like you're leaning into your.
Thank you.
Do we have any other comments from this side? Okay, so then.
Just one more comment.
Yes.
So if there's one thing that I might nitpick on, it might be the back door. And I'm not going to raise it as an issue to object to it because I'm not sure. The house is eclectic. It's got different styles involved in it, so I'm not sure what you follow in that. And all these old houses have a back door that doesn't seem to, it never matched anything else on the house, or rarely does. So I'm just throwing that out there to the rest of the commission if anybody sees any other inspiration on the home that might inform that door.
So going back to that back door, so in the kitchen now, or the kitchen, if you can see the elevation, the picture, I'm sorry, of the back of the house again.
So, part of when we close the record is that we're not really having a conversation with the applicant, but it's okay. It's fine.
I don't want to break the rules.
It's just.
Do we know if that door is original? Certainly could be.
I mean, it seems in keeping with the house. And then there's also the decorative windows on the second floor that it seems to, I don't know. Yeah.
I think if others were supportive, I would be interested in having our approval conditional on a new light pattern on the back door to more closely match the front door or the windows on the house. And let staff make that approval.
Well, I mean, there is already the effort of maintaining the light pattern with the new windows. So that would be in keeping to have the door replicate the same light pattern. So does someone have it seems like we're somewhat reached consensus. Does someone have a motion to approve the project? Not as drawn, but kind of as presented, to kind of understand that with the freeze board and with the light pattern on windows, that we can include that in the motion. Just Okay. All right. Well, I guess I'll make a motion to approve 25 Pres 0104 at 706 Forest Avenue. A certificate of appropriateness to alter the structure's rear volume by demolishing a non-original deck, constructing a single-story mudroom addition and raised deck, altering the pattern of fenestration, including new windows and doors in new and existing openings, as presented tonight, and then with the condition that the rear door will replicate the light pattern of the front door. Did I include everything that?
Or similar.
Or similar?
Yes.
Okay.
To be determined by staff.
Right. Is there a second? Second. Okay, second. All in favor of the project?
Aye.
Aye. All right, it passes unanimously. Thank you.
So we have to resubmit for the door, no?
No, you can,
Not in front of this commission.
right.
With the permit? Okay, sounds good. Thank you very much, everybody.
All right, do we have any edits or suggestions for edits of the minutes? Okay.
I had just a question. I think there was the Colfax house, the question of the permitting sequencing came up. And as I was reading through the minutes, it said there was a question and then staff to get back to everyone. And I don't know that was resolved. Could you bring up the... Yep.
Is that
I'm sorry.
during
I had it up here in my...
the deliberation part of for the Colfax property?
Yeah, it was, let's see. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Ridge Court. My bad.
Okay, yeah.
Ridge Court, yeah. Yeah, Colfax was the roof, I think, yeah. Of course, my computer's not working now.
Bless you.
Yes, thank you.
Sure.
So I guess that was...
Want me to answer?
Yeah, sure.
I was like, no, it's fine. Yeah, my understanding with that opening that was on the, and I might get it wrong, north elevation, I think, of the garage, is that they submitted originally for an interior remodel, kitchen remodel permit, and it did not have that opening. That was approved administratively. They then came in for post-permit revisions with that opening, and I think they proposed like a set of French doors or something. Those revisions were never rerouted to me to review, and they were just approved, I think, for like building code review. And then he came back, months later then with the addition next to it. So that's how that kind of played out.
So in terms of process, it's just making sure the folks that are,
I think
it's creating another checkbox when it needs to go back to you.
yeah, and that's we can work on that. It's a tough, I think it's some of those interior remodel ones are tough inherently. We have changed. They used to make a decision, the permit coordinators would look at interior remodel permits and they would determine whether I need to look at it or not. Now the default is just that they send all of them to me, because there were very often like a window, or something so like I'm the one now that checks for that. But yeah, the post-permit revisions thing I think is like another layer that needs to just be resolved. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
So that was just clarification, not editing. Okay, so, all right, seeing no edits, is everyone in move approval of the minutes? All in favor? All right,
Abstain, I wasn't there.
with one abstention. All right. So next, we have discussion item, the Dog Beach ADA Access Project update. Sure, if you want.
Sure. Full disclosure, I don't have the most information on it, but I did review what was presented to the Parks and Rec Board. And at least from what I can see is if I look at the comments that this commission provided originally, I think you asked them to study the two things that they kind of studied. So one was a ramp that provided access that didn't bisect the dune to the north and was limited to the Dog Beach area itself. So that's one alternative that they looked at. And then another one that this commission asked as well was like a more temporary solution. And so they did that as well, which I think is like it's probably like a combination of those mats that you see on the beach, and then I'm assuming some like aluminum ramp or something that's repositioned, each year based on the lake levels. So those are the two things that they've looked at. I think it's entirely reasonable for this commission to kind of, if there is like one that's, preferred in your mind that kind of limits any impact to any historic resources there, you could kind of say we think one might be more appropriate than the other, or you could just kind of agree that they studied the two things that you wanted them to study, and either one of those is preferred to the original concept, which I think is the one that had some relatively significant pushback from this commission because it bisected that natural area, and it was just a much more involved project on the Lakeshore. Is that helpful?
Yeah, I think that's, because what happened was, just to refresh what happened was the Administrative and Public Works Committee of the City Council ultimately voted to send the project back to us. And that's when we had the special meeting to discuss the project. And that's when we drafted the letter that went to City Council, and that's what Cade was talking about with our, and so now there's GEI consultants that has come back with alternatives to the alternative concepts. It's not really in the design phase yet, but that are more in alignment with our recommendations and our letter.
So Mary Rosinski's comment, which was a little bit hard to put into context as she was speaking, she was saying that something about just the
I
ramp,
haven't fully reviewed the GEI consultant's report, but one of them, I think, was a Moby mat kind of alternative. That's the mat that would be put onto the beach. And Parks, my understanding is that Parks and Rec did not think that was a good alternative concept. And there is one that where they run parallel to the beach with a ramp and then goes right into the beach, and it does not go through that whole natural area to the north.
I think that what Mary had to say was pretty important. She is on the Parks and Recreation Board. And I think what she referred to was that from my understanding is that the Parks and Rec Board unanimously basically rejected the plan that went through the natural area in favor of one that doesn't. I find and I saw 3 other designs that basically were within the Dog Beach area that took advantage of existing infrastructure. For instance, there was one with handicap parking right at the entrance, right on the curb, right on the sidewalk, which certainly makes a lot more sense than being, the length of a football field away or however far that is. But I think one of the things that was most compelling to me was that it, for the most part, is kind of hidden. From the park area, you don't see any of that stuff. It's all kind of over the edge and down into the and involved more traditional kind of structure like a concrete ramp and stuff. One thing the other thing that kind of bothered me about some of the, and I don't think it was like these exactly, but some of the other ideas that were expressed about the slope of the walk, about and I think this was in our last meeting, where they talked about the fact that if it had a certain amount of slope, then you didn't have to have railing.
That's right. If the slope was gentle enough, it's no longer considered a ramp. It's considered a walk.
And they were just right on the edge to avoid the. Well, I would think that if the idea is to make it safer and better, you'd probably want a ramp. Now, and I wouldn't want to see a ramp from the park area looking at the lake. I don't want to see any obstruction. I want to see as few obstructions as possible when I'm trying to look at the lake. And so I would think that the other thing about the slope, in order to avoid the railing, was that it had to be longer. That if it was a little more angle, that still was perfectly safe and accommodating to ADA purposes, you would have that, and you would have a railing, you would have a shorter distance, and I would think that it would be a safer distance. So the kind of thinking to get around stuff is I don't find very compelling. I think that of the 3 samples that I saw, there were 2 of them that were very, very, very plain and traditional and did what ramps and those things are supposed to do. They're supposed to get people safely and easily from point A to point B, and so they do that.
So it seems like it would then be a win-win situation where if you think about we're the Preservation Commission, and so how do we, fit into reviewing this project? And it's the historic lakefront and part of a historic district. And so you're saying it doesn't have much visual impact on the historic lakefront, but then we're also providing access to a needed access to a public beach.
Right. Right, that no one has to look
at. From the meeting last summer when we did this, when did it become this gigantic capital project? The goal was to make it ADA, and then I remember there's all this conversation about a boardwalk and cutting through that whole area, and they had to engage, the city engaged with biologists about the animal and plant life there. Who was pushing for? How did we end up with such an ornate plan? Did that meet some need of some constituency that I don't remember? Does anyone remember?
I don't think we were given a reason, and I don't really want to weigh into the budget aspect of the project.
Yeah, we don't have to, but
yeah.
our first standard as every reasonable effort shall be made to adapt the property, structure, site, or object in a manner that requires minimal alteration of the property, structure, or object and its environment. So I think we have our answer sort of right there. I mean, we want an ADA ramp in keeping with the values of the city, and we want it to be done in the most minimal way possible.
Right. And no animals will be harmed in the process, or plants.
Are we going to be voting on the iteration that comes out, or is this again just like we just give our thoughts and they?
So my understanding is this project was considered for staff review, and so this, right, and then a certificate of appropriateness was issued for the previous design, and so the current alternative concepts they're just concepts, and so whatever moves from that could potentially. You want to wait?
The certificate of appropriateness process and when it's triggered is like, it's difficult for city projects because I don't know exactly when city projects require city building permits and when they don't. And the only time we require a COA is if a building permit is required. I think it's entirely reasonable for the previous version that there are aspects of that probably, I don't know for one of these two alternatives. But you're certainly within your rights to review and comment on any proposal. If there's a reason why some kind of, straw vote or something is necessary to clarify a position, I think that's fine too. But there's no like binding recommendation or something, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, is there any way we could vote on it? Like, I'm wondering, I don't know if the council has to say, yeah, we'll kick it to you guys. You guys can have the first cut at it, or I don't know. I mean, I guess it sounds like currently the way it's written, since there's no building permit, it doesn't typically come to us, but there was just a lot of interest in this project last time. So for me, it would make sense that we would review it, but I know it's not in the traditional scope of what the things that we do review.
And I think if it's helpful to clarify what the commission's position is, you could have some kind of straw poll or vote on whether, one or both of these alternatives is preferred to the previous one, or if, one of the two alternatives is preferred or whatever. I think it's entirely reasonable to try to clarify what your position is, and it's probably helpful for them to know which one you think has the least adverse impact while still meeting the goals that were set for the project.
I mean, I think that it's pretty laudable that we actually sent a letter to a city council committee. They then took that letter into consideration, went to a different consultant, and came back with, concepts that actually are taking into account some of our recommendations. So I think that we should potentially say thank you in some way, or vote to approve, or not approve, but like say like this is what we agree aligns with our recommendations.
Is there any way that we could, as you mentioned before, refer to the wording that was just used and say that it would be it would be preferable, and would it be preferable to to follow our kind of mandate to preserve the visual aspect of the lakefront, and that we would, I guess we can't say we oppose, but we would find the one going through the natural area as not within, that whatever. I don't know the words.
I understand because what you were saying, and Commissioner Bose, I think what you were saying is that the one alternative concept that we've seen that does not go through the natural area and is is a shorter run, is contained within the Dog Beach area, is, I guess, more in alignment with our standards and our recommendations. So that's, I guess, a way
I think we could be positive about this. I mean, I think,
Right. Yes.
I think just sending a short letter that says, the Preservation Commission appreciates the opportunity to, highlight the work we do in preserving the, natural and built spaces in Evanston, blah, blah, blah. Our first, standard for alteration is, we can use that exact language and sort of take a nod to the more minimal of the two in a way that's not hostile, and it's a way that thanks them for engaging with us. And it's sort of like, it's our endorsement of that plan.
Yeah, I want to say that I think that they did a great job, and I'm really glad that we had the opportunity to write the letter to talk about it and then write the letter that we did. And we took into account public comment. There was a lot at that one meeting. And we had a lot of opinions too. And I think that the letter that we issued was really succinct. It gave those bullet points. And I find that then them coming back after a year and presenting these new options that avoids that area north of the breakwater thing, the more natural area, which is the bulk of what we were really concerned about impacting the site's character and setting and how important that was. I think that they did they checked that box, and so I really appreciate that. I think it kind of like that dialogue is working, and I like where it's going, and so I do think we should take a moment to appreciate what they did for the past year, because it was a lot of work, I'm sure, to reissue this new concept. And so, yeah, I agree with what the commissioners are saying here, that let's make sure that, we appreciate that you are, that the site's character has minimal impact, and, the view from the parking lot is still clear, and, certain things like that. But I think they're definitely headed in the right direction. And I appreciate that I feel heard. I feel like the commission was heard, like they actually read the bullet points. And that feels good, so good.
I would like to know if there'd be some way that we could reference the number of the commissioners that are in agreement. I mean, we didn't vote, so I guess we can't say unanimous, but we can say that this was a feeling of the entire body or
I
something.
mean, we did, the way we did it last time was we just went down the dais and everyone said their little piece about, I mean, if that was a way of showing support. Or,
The reason I say I don't know that Public Works that staff at Public Works is still may still be pursuing the less desirable
okay.
path. I think I don't know of any group or entity that has been supportive of that other than Public Works staff. So,
I mean, if you're willing to, we could entertain a motion just to see if we have support for a certain alternative concept.
I'd have to understand better the nuances between the two and
Right.
the pros and cons, so I wouldn't be prepared to pick one over the other tonight. When I think, did you say the less desirable, it has more of a visual impact? So is that the one that's steeper and is a ramp and has a railing?
the one that I find more intrusive and more obstruction in terms of vision is the one that goes through the natural area.
Okay, is that still on the table, or have they moved on from that?
I think, at least my understanding is that, and again, I don't have the full background, so it's just me reading what was done. I think that there are options to, as like originally presented, or that scheme that is modified to reduce cost, but is still somewhat similar. Like I think I saw one where it's it's not a boardwalk anymore, it's just a sidewalk in the same location because that saves money, or it's these two alternatives. At least what I'm kind of hearing amongst everybody is, maybe it's just is there a show of hands that you think they address the concerns that you brought up previously? These two concepts, are they closer to addressing those concerns?
The two that are south of the break wall.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Are those preferred to what was presented previously, and do you think it addresses the
Okay.
comments that were sent?
I would be on board with that.
That you ask, right, we have a showing of.
So then can I just have a show of hands of if everyone is in agreement that we appreciate that they took our recommendations into consideration and came up with alternatives south of the breakwater? So just show your hands if you can. So, okay. So that it's preferred, yes. Right. So without taking a vote, it was clear that everyone raised their hand for the preferred option. All right.
I just want to quickly say, I agree. I'm glad we ended where we did, but it's an entire year from when we had that initial meeting. So I guess moving forward, I don't know if there's a way to have a process where like some subcommittee of preservation or someone reviewed stuff, because, a lot of staff spent a lot of time devising something that ultimately wasn't what this commission wanted or a lot of the folks wanted. And I'm just saying, just thinking about, people's work and the work product and make it more efficient and costly. I mean, they spent I think hundreds of thousands of dollars on consultant fees for those first designs. So I'm just wondering, I definitely appreciate where we're ending up, but I just wonder how we could improve that process, in the future. And we don't necessarily have to come to an answer today, but I do think it's something we should think about. And I would love to see a process in place because it's a lot of taxpayer money and it's a lot of time from staff too. And we still don't have the ramp for the folks who need it. I mean, that's the other thing. It's just prolonging that. So.
Well, I have heard in the last year and beyond comments like, projects, before you spend $750,000 on a consultant, maybe you should run it by a few people. Maybe Parks and Rec's board should see it in earlier stages. A lot of things come through fully baked and committed, and tens of thousands of dollars of taxpayers' money wasted, hundreds of hours of staff time is already invested, and then it comes up and everyone goes, we don't like it. And you're supposed to hear that we don't like it before you spend all that money. And the other thing that bothers me particularly about this one is that I'm amazed that we're still having this conversation, and that after almost 2 years, staff insists on bringing up the same project again, even though it's been rejected so many times. And it's like, I appreciate that there are people who really, really, really want to do the best they can do for our city and for the people and everything, But I think that either their supervisors, their kids, or somebody should be able to say, well, okay, that's about enough. There you go.
Well, okay.
I just don't want to see. I want this. I'd like to see this project completed and not discussed.
I think
over and over
I think
again.
we all would love to see this completed in a sensible, less obstructive way. All right. So next we have the potential survey areas for fall of 2025. Do you want to give an update on that?
Hopefully this is a little bit lighter of a conversation. Potential survey areas. We talked about neighborhood business districts. Actually the preferred time to survey properties is like the dead of winter, but I don't know that anybody really wants to do that because there's no leaves on the trees, but the fall is a perfectly reasonable time. So we talked about Central Street, Main Street, and Dempster, I think, were the three. It depends really how quickly we move. If you could potentially do all three of those, you could pick one. I think it would be helpful to like prioritize them, and then we work through them as we go. The largest is probably Central Street in my head, moving west to east, and it has like two separate components to it basically. Dempster is probably the smallest, and then Main. And it just, the process generally for everybody is that you go out with survey sheets and cameras, and there's at least, depends, we can either do groups of 3 or fewer commissioners, and then it's like you don't have to notice that publicly. If there's more than that, you like publish the route that you're going to take, or there's like a starting time and a starting location, and you travel from here to here, which we have done in the past. So that just depends. Or you break it up into, we'll do it, on a Friday and Saturday, or Thursday and Friday, or whatever, and there's a group of 3 on one day and another group on the other day. You'll look at each building, you kind of document its style, what you estimate its construction date. You'll give a, assessment of its condition, assessment of its architectural integrity. You'll make a kind of on-the-fly decision on whether you think it might be landmark eligible or not. And then all of that, once you compile that and you do it for every single building on the, even if it's non-contributing or it's not character defining, you're going to survey it. We take all that information back, or I take all that back, and then there's background research on it. So you actually look up the permitting history, you try to find the construction date, and then you can better assess whether it's potentially eligible, and you specify which criteria it's potentially eligible on, and then that goes on the study list of eligible resources. So it's important work. We're actually required by the state to have an ongoing survey program. That's part of our certified local government status. So, it doesn't mean you have to do it every year, but we've been trying to do it more recently. I think prior to this, 2015 was the first, and then we did one in 2022. And
Was
then
that the
this will be
resurvey
another
of the
one.
Lakeshore Historic District?
I think 2015 was the landmarks outside of districts. And then there's a couple resurveys. But really the intent, I think, of that CLG requirement is that it's like new areas. Because, significance expands, it doesn't stand still. There are resources that people in the 1970s never would have thought were significant that today we might find architecturally or historically or culturally significant. So having that ongoing survey program, that's really the foundation or the framework of a preservation program.
In terms of which one we might prioritize first, like in my mind, we'd want to prioritize perhaps the one that's most in danger of change. I mean, like a lot of work has been done on Main Street over the sort of short period of time. Maybe less work has been done on Dempster. I don't know if that holds true to the future, but like it's just one way of deciding what we might prioritize.
Well, there is a very large development at the corner of Dempster and
right
and Chicago Avenue that includes a currently unlisted, unprotected historic building.
So that might be our answer then.
So, Kate, not having gone through this, this seems like, as you were describing it, it seemed a little bit, when you mentioned the research at the back end, that sounds like this would have an impact on your workload. And not that there's like, once we hand it off to you, there's like a definite time. Like, could you talk a little bit about how this would impact what you've going on, and if there's any, we're a team.
Yeah, it's not as, we kind of, at least my approach has been to straddle this line between what they call a reconnaissance survey, which is like very informal, that can even be, some people call it a windshield survey, where you look at something that looks architecturally interesting and you might write it down as being such. Intensive level is like you're going to the library, you're going to the history center, you're digging up all the permit records, all the alterations, you're documenting all that. The middle ground isn't really that labor intensive for me. You're really just trying to stylize it properly and get the construction date and the architect if possible, and any like major alterations. And that's relatively easy now that we've digitized all those records for me. it's not something where, let's say, like you end the survey as a commission in the end of October. I probably won't get it back to you until, December or January or something. Like it's not at the top of my priority list, but it's just something you do on an ongoing basis and fill in. And you start from those, at least in the past, the way I did it was, we might survey 60 buildings. 10 of those you might think might be eligible. Those 10 are the priority, so they're going to get researched first, and then you start looking at the other ones afterwards and trying to document them.
So this seems a little bit of a non sequitur, but the school year is in session, and the architecture club at ETHS is going to get started in the next week, and this might be an interesting thing. And the only reason I bring it up is I don't know how much of a time commitment or the time frame. Like, what typically how would it roll out in practice? Like, what does it look like?
So when we did it, and some of you here, Beth did it, John did it, when we did Amanda, Carl, we did the downtown where we resurveyed the downtown. I think that was a 3-day endeavor. There were 3 routes and 3 teams, and it was probably 4 to 5 hours or something, 4 hours, I would guess, about.
Yeah, it was like an afternoon with like maybe 5, 6 people together.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a great learning lesson. I mean, it's definitely a skill to learn how to survey a building, to understand the various components of a building, how to stylize a building. All of those are important skills that they might be interested in learning.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've done surveys where we mentored students, and so it's an interesting opportunity with ETHS, maybe.
Are you asking us to pick a area for surveying?
I think just
right
what you want to
tonight?
start with.
Okay.
Because there is some prep time on the
Right.
front, and so I will try to like map out the route. When you stay like Dempster Street, for example, there are offshoots of Dempster Street that have really interesting fabric as well. So you're not just walking that corridor, so that you'll pick kind of the route, and I'll list all of those by address, and I'll prepare the survey forms beforehand, so it's a little easier. So there's a little bit of prep work. So just deciding where you want to start, I think, is important.
And then does it include like us photographing it and sending those photographs to you?
Not usually. I would not say that you should be responsible for photos. Usually it's better if just one person, if one of you is really interested in being the photographer, that's great. The way I did it last time was I took all the photos. Or I think myself and Carlos took the photos last time. And that's another skill, how to photograph a building is totally another skill that we can teach them too. But there are definite tricks to that. There's a right way and a wrong way to do it.
So are you saying that the state has asked that these kinds of surveys be conducted in communities all over the place?
It's part of our, Evanston and many communities in Illinois are certified as local governments. All that's saying is the state is essentially saying that the city of Evanston has a special expertise in historic preservation, and they defer some responsibilities that the state would otherwise control to the local government. And there are requirements associated with that. You access grant funding that way, which is how we've surveyed, that's how we resurveyed the Lakeshore Historic District. That's how we did a survey of landmark properties. That's how we recorded landmark titles on all deeds. Those are all CLG grant opportunities. But the requirements are, one, that you enforce locally, that this commission and city enforce the state preservation laws. One is that you have an ongoing survey program. One is that you have a commission that's impaneled. So those are, and there might be like one other, but there are requirements, and one of those is an ongoing survey program.
Do you know, is there existing software to do this?
Yeah, I mean, I've always done it just with paper. It's been relatively easy for these a little bit less informal, but certainly, like in my past experience as a consultant, that you would contract with. There are places like Place Vision or Site Vista that they have an app typically on an iPad, and you go out and you take a picture with the iPad and you enter all the information, and then it just populates the survey sheet for you.
Right. And then once created, then it can be updated but it's a major record. It seems like it seems like a very practical thing to have, and I would be surprised that there wasn't a very sophisticated application, for doing that. I know that, for instance, there are applications for flyovers of a community, and I can identify all the trees, and you're just from. But it sounds like a really exciting thing to do.
Yeah. So do you want to give Cade direction of which area of the city we would like to start
Dempster.
survey? Or
Are there already
Dempster.
existing options? Are there already existing options that you mentioned?
We
Maine?
and this just came up, I think, in the annual work plan when we talked about surveying areas, and the commission provided some direction on surveying neighborhood business districts, and specifically, I think, Maine, Dempster, Central were discussed, and also I think the little portion on like Florence and Greenleaf, that little pocket, was also discussed as a potential location.
Well, I heard someone mention Main Street as being the most in danger, and there certainly has been more activity on Main than any of those others. Dempster seems to be very, very stable, but Main is disappearing.
They mentioned that there's a large development that's proposed for the corner of Chicago and Dempster for an area that's not currently protected. So,
And I think that, just for everyone's clarification, that building on the corner was surveyed and determined locally eligible as part of the Chicago Avenue multimodal corridor project. So there are other ways that we add properties to this study list, and one of them is anytime there's federal money or state money involved in a project, they're required to do an environmental review. Part of that environmental review is an assessment of historic resources. So when they did that for Chicago Avenue, IDOT has a cultural resources unit or bureau. They came out and surveyed Chicago Avenue. They listed like 18 properties or something that they thought were eligible for the National Register. The state concurred, they agreed, and then automatically we just kind of populate those as being locally eligible as well, so they get on our list. So that one on the corner was identified.
And that's why, I mean, it's my understanding that the development maintains at least the facade, if not the entire structure of like the.
Yeah, maybe there's
along the-
one like addition that most of that development is in a parking lot, surface parking lot right now. But there's two kind of, I mean, to the earlier point, there are two kind of rules of thumb. One might be that you survey areas that you think have higher development potential and are inherently like more threatened, is what we usually, the term we use. The other might be surveying areas that you already believe have very intact built fabric that you want to just identify and document. You know, and both of those probably exist. If I think about Dempster Street, it probably has more of a cohesive character and intact built fabric than Main Street probably does, even though there are portions of Main Street that still have that cohesive pattern of character as well. But there's no wrong answer, and you might be able to do both, you know.
Beth, do you have a question?
No, it was, Kate kind of answered it and what I was getting to, but he, knowing that, didn't the city just receive a $14 million federal grant for the Chicago Avenue corridor? And so that work has already been done along Chicago Avenue. Maybe it's worth us to go ahead and do the Dempster cross street then. So maybe my vote's there, but yeah.
Well, if some of these, just for conversation's sake, if this study for the Chicago corridor hit both Maine and Dempster at the ends, maybe Central would make more sense.
That's true. If there hasn't been a as in-depth look at that street like there was for this federal grant, that makes sense.
Kate, are you aware of any survey from any agency?
I don't think anything's happened on Central Street that I can recall that have identified any eligible resources. There might be like little one-offs, like sometimes there are like cell towers that get put up, and the state will identify a couple resources within the what they call the area of potential effect. But I don't think anything. There hasn't been anything. You know, it is an IDOT roadway, so if there ever was funding on it, they would do that. But I don't think anything's been done. It's certainly an area where there is a lot of cohesive built fabric that's
The
architecturally
thing is
interesting.
that Central Street is such a long,
It's big. That would be the
long
biggest one. Yeah.
street that how would you propose breaking it up? I mean, you said east-west of the
Yeah, and you don't
Metro,
have to,
or-
you don't have, you know, just like when we talk about Dempster Street, you know, we're not talking from Skokie to the lakefront.
Right.
You know, so you could break it up into, you know, if I think about Central Street, there are probably two very cohesive areas of built fabric, one around Lincolnwood and Central Park Avenue on Central Street, the other one being the kind of the main core that goes from, what is that, Pioneer to the other side of Green Bay. And then there is actually some really interesting kind of mid-century fabric east of the stadium. There's some interesting stuff there as well.
the Baha'i
Yeah,
building
there-
or something, yeah.
some interesting
by the golf course.
resources there. But so you don't have, it doesn't have to be
Yeah.
the whole thing. You can break that one. That one could even be broken up into, you know, 3 different areas. Or
But right now, we're just telling you a general area that we're interested in surveying, and so,
I think if we can knock off Dempster quicker, let's do that first.
Yeah, I make a motion that we choose Dempster to begin the, survey.
okay. So then, are we voting on that? If you made a motion?
I don't think you
have
have to. I think that's pretty clear direction for me.
Well, okay. Just made
All
a
right.
motion, but.
Yeah.
All right, and then next we have the 2025 Cultural Heritage Awards.
Yeah, I just want to give a really quick update. We originally, the nomination period was supposed to end on August 1st. I talked with Carl about extending that based on some feedback we had from some potential nominees. So that got pushed to the end of August. The good news is that we received 10 submissions, which last year I think we had 7 or 8, so it's actually more. Right now, where I'm at is I'm assembling the jury. I reached out to 5. 1 was a no. 3 are a yes. 1 is, I'm talking with him tomorrow. So the jury very shortly will be in place. As just kind of a reminder, they're all people that aren't from Evanston. So I think that's important as well, just to be objective. And then once I understand their schedules, I'll figure out a time for them to meet on site, and they'll either meet, there are individuals that have been nominated that they'll have the opportunity to speak with, and then there are locations associated and projects with some of the nominations that they'll be able to visit and see, and then they'll make a decision on who to give awards to, and then we'll follow that up similar to last year with a reception, acknowledgement as city council, and then a reception afterwards. Hopefully sometime the end of October is what happened last year, so I think the timing is probably similar.
Did you get a good variety of applicants? I know that was, part of our effort.
Yeah, there were, which is, that's kind of the exciting thing about the new program. So there are 2 individuals that I know were nominated for the Cultural Ambassador Award, which is kind of the highest form of recognition kind of for like lifetime service or commitment to the city and its cultural heritage. There are 2 that are more traditionally design focused preservation projects. There are 2 that are in the theme of art, which I think is nice as cultural expressions. And the others, I think, are more like education or documentation related for some like archival materials, discovery of kind of past histories that were unknown. There's some really interesting nominations this time. Mm-hmm.
And I just forget the process. Can you remind us, will we ever see the projects that are being proposed or that have been nominated?
I think that was one of the that was some of the feedback from you last time, was that you didn't, that you just saw who won and you didn't see the full. So we can certainly have you review all the nominations. Yeah. Yeah, it's a program that you sponsor as a commission, so I think whatever level of involvement you want to have, or how much you want to look at it is great. In the past, we've had commissioners in the past tag along on the jury too when we do site visits. So if you're interested, to just kind of tag along and see what that looks like. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you for that update, and with that, we can adjourn our meeting.